ever, like, agonize over those online reviews before buying something. I do, all the time. Like, seriously, those little star ratings have way too much power over me.
Yeah, and it's funny. Those stars, they're really just a stand-in for something way bigger. It's about trust. You know,
Trust, yeah, okay, I get that.
like you see that stat, something like 81% of people, they need to trust a brand before they'll even consider buying something.
Wow, 81%, that's huge.
It is, right. So this whole idea of reputation, it's not just some marketing buzzword. It really gets at something pretty fundamental about how we all make decisions.
So we're really diving deep into this whole reputation management thing today, and you've brought some really interesting stuff for us to go through. And it seems like from what I'm seeing, it's so much more than just like, doing damage control after a PR disaster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really about, how do I put it? It's like you're actively shaping how people see you online,
Yeah.
whether you're an individual or a giant corporation. It's all about perception.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But like the internet is a big, scary place. Where do you even begin? How can you actually manage something as massive as your online reputation?
Well, yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up. It feels overwhelming, so they just kind of freeze. But the key is, and this is going to sound maybe a little obvious, but you got to break it down.
Okay, break it down. So what are like the building blocks here?
So one of the sources you shared, it used this analogy of listening posts, which I thought was kind of cool.
Listening posts. I like that. Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, so think of it like this. You're not trying to like spy on everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but you do need to know what people are saying about you online, right?
Right.
So these listening posts, they're kind of like your early warning system. They give you that heads up if someone's, praising you from rooftops or maybe uh, dragging your name through the mud.
So like how do we actually build these listening posts? What are we talking about here? Some kind of high-tech surveillance operation?
No, no, nothing like that. It can be as simple as setting up a Google alert.
Oh yeah, Google Alerts. I've heard of those. But to be honest, they always seemed a little, I don't know, techie for me.
Yeah, I get it. They sound more complicated than they really are. It's
Right.
actually super easy to set up. You
Yeah.
tell Google what keywords you want to track, like your name, your brand, even your competitors, and bam, anytime something pops up online mentioning those words, you get an email.
So it's basically like having your own personal news clipping service, but for the entire internet.
Exactly. It's like having a team of digital assistants scanning the web 24/7 so you don't have to.
That's pretty awesome, actually. So let's say we're like diligently monitoring our alerts, and then boom, we get one that's like a scathing review. That's got to be every business owner's worst nightmare, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not fun, but here's the thing. Negative feedback, if you handle it the right way, can actually be a good thing.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, think about it. Most of the time, when someone leaves a bad review, it's because they feel like they weren't heard. You know, they had a problem and they felt ignored or dismissed.
Yeah, I can see that.
So when you respond to a negative review, not defensively, but with empathy and a genuine desire to make things right, you're not just addressing that one person's complaint, you're showing everyone who sees that interaction that you care.
That's a good point. It's like you're turning a negative into a positive just by how you handle it.
Exactly. It's all about transparency and showing that you're willing to learn and grow.
Okay, so what's like the best way to respond to a negative review without making things worse? Because let's be honest, it's really tempting to just fire back, you
Oh,
know?
I know. The urge to defend yourself can be strong. But one of the most effective things you can do is actually move the conversation offline.
Offline. What do you mean?
So instead of getting into a back and forth in the comment section, which almost never ends well, you publicly acknowledge the person's concerns and then invite them to connect with you directly.
So something like, we're sorry to hear you had a bad experience. Please DM us so we can make it right.
Exactly. Something like that. It's all about de-escalating the situation and showing that you're willing to listen and work towards a solution.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's about taking it out of the public eye and, like you said, showing that you genuinely care.
Right. Because at the end of the day, most people just want to be heard and know that their concerns are being taken seriously.
So we've talked about handling the negative, but what about amplifying the positive? Because those glowing reviews, those are like gold, right?
Yeah.
They build so much trust and credibility, especially online where everyone's checking reviews for everything these days.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, and this might sound a little crazy in our age of information overload, but sometimes all it takes is to ask.
Really. just asking for a review makes that much of a difference? I feel like everyone's already bombarded with requests for reviews these days.
You're not wrong. People are definitely inundated with requests. But think about it. Even if someone had an amazing experience, they might not think to leave a review unless you gently nudge them.
Interesting. It's like you're just reminding them that their feedback is valuable.
Exactly. It could be as simple as a line in a follow-up email or a little pop-up on your website, just a friendly reminder that their feedback helps others.
So don't be shy about asking for those good reviews. Okay, that's a really good takeaway. We've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about setting up those listening posts, responding to negative feedback thoughtfully, and now encouraging those positive reviews. What else is there?
Well, we've laid a really strong foundation, but there's one more layer to this whole reputation management thing that I think is worth exploring.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
It's all about the power of story.
Storytelling. Interesting. Okay, how does that play into this?
So it's like this, right? You're not just trying to manage your reputation. You're trying to shape it. You're trying to create a narrative that people connect with, something that resonates on a deeper level.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this, but could you give me an example? Like, how does this actually work in the real world?
Sure. Think about a company like, let's say, GoPro. Everyone knows GoPro.
Those action cameras, right?
Exactly. But they're not just selling cameras. They're selling this whole idea of adventure, of pushing boundaries, capturing those crazy moments that you'll never forget, right?
Right.
So their online presence, everything they do, it all feeds into that story. The images they use, the videos they share, even the way they write their product descriptions. It's all about tapping into that feeling of excitement, of possibility.
So it's like they're creating a whole vibe, a whole feeling around their brand, and that's what draws people in.
Exactly. It's about connecting with people on an emotional level.
So how do we like even begin to do that? Especially if we're not like a big fancy company like GoPro. It seems like that would take a lot of, resources, time, money, all that.
Well, the good news is you don't need a Hollywood budget to tell a good story. It's really about finding the why behind what you do and then figuring out how to communicate that authentically.
Okay, so like what does that look like in practice? Can you give me some like concrete examples?
Sure. It could be as simple as, sharing some behind-the-scenes stuff on Instagram,
Yeah.
showing people how your product is made, or giving them a glimpse into your creative process.
Right, like humanizing your brand a little bit.
Exactly. Or, you could write a blog post about what inspired you to start your business, or feature customer testimonials that really highlight the impact you've had on people's lives.
So it's all about finding those little human moments, those authentic connections, and then sharing them with the world.
Exactly. And the beauty of the digital age is that there are so many different ways to do that. You can experiment, you can be creative, you can find what works best for you.
This has been incredibly helpful. I feel like we've really gotten a handle on this whole reputation management thing, from setting up those listing posts to crafting our own compelling narratives. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you think our listeners should keep in mind as they navigate this whole online reputation game?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to remember that it's not about tricking people or creating some kind of fake persona. Authenticity is key. People can spot a phony a mile away.
That's so true.
It's about being genuine, being transparent, and really caring about the work you do and the people you serve. And if you can do that, the rest will fall into place.
I love that. So, as we like to say on the show, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Be thoughtful, be intentional, be yourself, and the rest will follow.